So for the past 2 days or so, I've been flying this little itty bitty quad around. Overall, it's a nice little quad, but the flight times are horrible. This is Air Hogs FPV racing quad, and the FPV on this thing is Wi-Fi, so it's very much garbage. And also to help improve the flight time, this thing used to get like 2 minutes on a charge. So what I ended up doing was ripping out the actual Wi-Fi board. Luckily, this board here is actually just connected through a little ribbon cable, so this thing just gets power. So this ribbon cable right here is just a power cable. But I basically just disconnected this whole motherboard. This whole motherboard here actually runs the video feed and the Wi-Fi. But like I said, the Wi-Fi on this board for this quad really freaking sucks. So yeah, I ripped this out. I actually managed to increase this thing's flight time to about 5 minutes or so, and that's with me pushing it hard. As in, I go basically full bore with this thing. Do line of sight, I just fly around like a little race quad. I just go up and down my street for however long the battery dies, and sometimes I'll just follow it up. I'll follow it and just have it go straight up in the air, and then just cut the power and just let it auto gyro down and whatnot. But like I said, this thing's fun to fly and all, but I got myself a new quad coming in, and amazingly enough, my father let me keep this quad too. So I got myself a new quad coming in, which is $30. This one that I'm supposed to be getting should supposedly fly for 10 to 13 minutes. So what I'm going to do with this thing is I'm going to convert this thing into a FPV hang glider. So the first thing I gotta do is pop the thing apart, figure out how I'm going to make sure I make sure that I know make sure I have the wires properly labeled so I can know which side of the board is forward and back and whatnot, and also make sure that I somehow remove the nacelles from this top piece of plastic without actually damaging them, because I don't know if this quad here could actually run without. I don't know if if these engines will run properly without the little ducts. So I'm going to try and somehow remove the ducts and also try and keep it as lightweight as possible. Because since I'm going to be converting this thing to a hang glider, I want this thing to be as physically light as possible. That way, so I can just give it ever so little throttle, and the thing will fly forever. So what I'm going to do is that this portion of the video, or this whole video right here, is going to be just the build log. That way, so I can actually do a whole flight video separate, because theoretically, if I build this thing properly, I should be able to do FPV hang gliding with this thing, and it'll be a lot more easier to actually do FPV on this thing if it's an actual just hang glider, because doing FPV on this thing as it stands right now is a freaking joke. So I'm going to come back in a little bit once I pop this thing apart and then I'll try to explain exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm going to try and keep this video under 10 minutes, but don't expect it. Luckily, I'm not monetizing my videos, though I do like to keep them under 10 minutes though. Alright, so I popped off the back cover. There's just 6 screws I gotta remove and whatnot. And here's the actual motherboard. The Wi-Fi board actually goes underneath the battery, or actually technically on top of the battery, so it's actually supposed to go right there. But like I said, I removed it. So luckily, the easiest way for me to tell which is the front portion and which one's the back portion of this board is because this right here is the on and off switch / charging port, so this always faces back. So I know that this is front, so what I gotta do now is I gotta snip these wires and also make sure that the little solder balls right here that you see do not get removed. So I'm also going to use hot glue to reinforce this whole little section. I also removed 2 of the screws already. I'm going to remove the other 2. pop off this motherboard, snip the wires where I need to, and then figure out how the heck I'm going to remove the nacelles without damaging them. Alright, so one of the things I had to do was also make sure that I can know which motor goes to where. So I just pretty much put a little piece of tape and writing on it so I can know which is which. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the two inner ones in the inside, and I'm going to put the two outer ones right next to them. Basically what will happen is if I do it like that, it'll basically be a 747 or a B-17 bomber to an extent with the engine nacelles and whatnot. And that way, so if I just want to do like a simple turn, if my memory serves correctly, all I need to do is just use this for a simple right and left turn. Because let's say if I want to go left, these two motors here will spin up. And since this one's on the outer side and this one's on the inner side, it's going to do a somewhat of a decent slow turn. And same thing if I want to go right. If I want to go right, these two will spin up and push the thing to the right. But let's say I really need to crank the thing over because it's like going to hit a tree or something. If I push to the left with the throttle like this, these two will spin up. That way, so if I really need to turn it, these two will spin up and these two will stop practically, or spin down really freaking slow, and the thing will do a really sharp turn to the right or turn to the left. It's a little difficult to explain, so once I actually figure out how to properly remove the engine nacelles from the body, I'll be able to actually put the whole thing together and actually kind of show off what I meant. Okay, so what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to use this box cutter since these things are incredibly sharp. And I'm actually going to just going to cut right here and just basically mill away on the plastic. I don't know what I'm going to do about these little sections right here. I think I can just pull them away, or what I might actually just end up doing is I might just take this little pair of tweezers or whatever we call these things, and I'll just snip right there and just snip right there so I can have a nice little chunk of plastic just there, and then I can just whittle it away. Same thing with the other back piece. The only part I'm going to have problems with is the front portion here because there's so much plastic here. I'm trying to figure out how to remove as much of this plastic to reduce the weight as possible without damaging these nacelles. I know I could damage the outer portion of the nacelles, but I really don't want to because if I remove some plastic, there might be a hole right here, and that can impede the way the air current works in these nacelles. And since these are electric engines, i.e. ducted jets, these things need to have the nacelles to function properly. So I got to somehow pull these engine nacelles off without actually damaging them, because like I said, if I damage the inner side, or the inside of these nacelles, they might not fully function properly. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not actually going to record myself actually removing any of this because I don't know what I'm doing and I just want to take my time. But I think you can pretty much get the idea of what I might end up doing anyways. And on a side note, I got a lot of foam board. Well, technically 10 sheets. I actually got 11 sheets, but this is a 10 sheet piece of foam board. I'm going to use these to build the extra 300 that Flight Test came out with, if they release the free plans. That's the only thing that sucks. I'm waiting for them to release those free plans, because I want to build the extra 300 and I want to do a theme. I have a few themes in my head, but I want to get the thing built first before I figure things out on that end. Alright, so I've gone and removed the nacelles. It wasn't actually as difficult as I thought it would to actually remove these, but there is some scuffing, and I decided to leave these on the front portions of the nacelles because I really don't think I could actually really remove them that well, so I'm just going to leave them there. Of course, again, I tried doing it to save weight, so I got the nacelles cut off, and of course here's the actual body. As you can tell, more or less, I mean, gotta get the general idea. And luckily this was sharp enough. So now I gotta figure out how exactly I'm going to mount these on the bottom of the hang glider. So I'll come back when I figure that out. Alright, and this is the motherboard that actually runs everything. This has the gyro and everything else. So the way this thing actually is put onto the put into the quad is that this is the bottom, and of course here's the antenna. This little port right here is the power distributor for the little Wi-Fi module, which is this little guy right here. So what I've done to make sure this thing is level on the on what I'm going to place it on, I just basically made some risers out of some popsicle sticks. Again, trying to keep it as lightweight as possible. That way, so when I actually place it down on the surface, it's actually more or less level. That way, so when this thing's flying, the gyro won't be kicking off some weird. Gyro won't be feeling anything weird and trying to compensate. So yeah. I'm going to now figure out how exactly to build the little section I need to build next. Alright, so I made the little thing that the engines are going to slide into. I've pretty much just reinforced it with a simple barbecue skewer. I added a bevel edge. I actually don't know if this actually does help in flight, but I add it anyways because this is a airfoil and there will be air going over this thing, so if I can get any extra lift from this thing, I'm going to do it. So pretty much all I gotta do is I just hot glue, I just more or less just, let's see if I can do this one-handed. More or less just hot glue the engine cells like this, and actually have the wires pointing upwards and whatnot. And I'm actually going to put this board, which is the control board, I'm going to put it right here. Ooh, and I accidentally removed the little etch marks I had, so I gotta go and redo the etch marks. But this is where this board's gonna go. So there's that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all this put together, and then I'm gonna come back. Alright, so I got the little thing, I got everything attached. I got the engine cells attached. I got the little motherboard figured out. Generally speaking, this is what's going to be powering the hang glider. These little ductors and whatnot. Now, I built these things in the past. I've converted 2 quads I've owned in the past into hang gliders, and each one worked. The only reason why they're not with me is because they were using these propellers right here. So every time I go to land, these propellers will hit the ground, and eventually these propellers will break. So after a while, the thing, I couldn't fly because there's no propellers. But since these things are protected, I won't have to worry about these props busting as easily. So basically, so let me explain how the steering works. So if I go full left, these 2 spin up, so I can go full hard left. Same thing if I want to go right. These 2 right here these 2 spin up and it goes full right. But if I want to do a lazy turn to the right or left, if I go left here, this one spins up and this one spins up. So it turns slowly. And same thing if I go right, this one spins up and this one spins up to go to the right. So I can either go slow, or I can go or I can have a real hard turn if I need. And of course, let me turn the thing on. As you notice, it did jiggle a little bit. The gyro on this thing's a tad sensitive to my liking, but hopefully that won't be too much of a problem when I actually go to fly this thing for the first time. So now I need to make the little thing that's going to actually dangle this thing on underneath the hang glider wing. So I'm going to go figure that out now. Alright, so this is pretty much what I came up with. This little part right here will allow me to attach it to the kite frame. Or the glider frame, or what, I actually don't know what it's called. So, yeah. Pretty much all I gotta do now is add a little piece of wood right here to keep this area nice and supported. And also make it so if I need to readjust it, I can easily just pop it off without completely damaging the whole thing. So, yeah, but generally speaking, this is how everything goes. I have enough room to turn the thing on and off. I should have enough room to also plug in the charging cable to charge the thing. But hopefully this all functions as it should, and in theory I should have a fairly capable little RC hang glider. So now the only next thing I gotta do is actually build the main wing. And the problem with that is I can't make it too big or too small. If it's too small, it won't fly right, or I mean it won't produce enough lift. If it's too big, it'll just be too heavy and the thing can't push itself in the air and whatnot, so it has to, more or less just has to be just right. Generally speaking, I've managed to get it pretty much right every single time. I know on my second version on the second hang glider, the second quadcopter I converted into a hang glider, I had to redo the main wing like once, I believe, because it was too big, if my memory serves. So hopefully I can do it right on this one too. So I just need to go grab a trash bag and mark out the design. Alright, so I'm now out in the kitchen. Please forgive the background noise. So I looked around for some old videos of my original 2 hang gliders I made, but I can't find them. So no help there. So this is, and so whatnot. So I'm just going to have to hope that I get the wing proper first time. And here's something else so interesting. Normally we get the cheap Walmart trash bags, but this is the Glad Force Flex bags. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this acts as a airfoil compared to what I normally use. I wonder if this is actually going to stretch. If this is actually going to stretch or not when it's flying. So all I gotta do it. So I already got the one part already figured out, the angle of the tack or whatever. So now I just gotta figure out how big to actually make it. So I'm just going to just figure something out and cut it out. Alright, so I got the airfoil hopefully figured out, and this is the airfoil I've been using on the past 2, well not this specific one, but this is the general shape I've been using on each airfoil of the hang gliders I've built, and this airfoil is proven to be pretty freaking good. So how am I going to support it? So how am I going to keep the airframe rigid? Well, I'm just going to use simply put, straws. These are strong enough to support the whole thing while it's flying. Of course, I'm going to have to at least have a rib right around here or so to actually keep it to hold its form in flight. And that's where these come in. I'm just going to use one of these to basically act as the rib reinforcement. And of course, like I said, I have one here to reinforce this section. So I'm going to get the straws put together and attached to the airframe and everything else and come back. Alright, so I took the thing outside for a little bit for a small test flight, and it does fly. It's just that I need to move it slightly. It's just that I need to move this forward slightly because it's too tail heavy. Basically, I want this thing to be ever so slightly tail heavy, so it's always at this much of an angle. That way, so it can catch wind or catch air and whatnot. But it's a little too tail heavy. And what happens is that when I turn, the gyros on this thing overcompensate and basically full throttle all the throttles and basically cause the thing to nearly high alpha or pull a loop. And when it does that, the whole freaking motherboard freaks out. And I have to cut power and let the thing settle before I re-engage the power. So I'm going to pull this thing off, move the cell. Move this little. Yeah, this is. Well, actually, I don't know what this would be called. But I'm gonna move this forward, just not by much though. Alright, so hopefully this is now properly done and I've had the CG proper. So I actually had to move it just ever so slightly forward again, and it pretty much died before I got a chance to test it again, but I believe I got the center of gravity just right for this for my low RC hang glider. So I'm going to charge it up and go outside and test it, and then if it flies properly, come back with a short little video of this thing flying. It's currently nighttime, so you won't be able to really see it. So tomorrow I'll have a more proper flight video of this thing. Well, technically today. I don't know. Well, yeah, most likely later today. Yeah, definitely a little bit later today. I'm gonna have a better video up where it's gonna be daytime to where you can actually properly see this thing flying around. So I'm gonna go charge this thing up and test it and then come back. Alright, so overall it flies great. I've pretty much balanced it out more or less. I made a little cutout for the charging cable, add some reinforcement to the back. I've also added this to the front. This probably really isn't needed, but I'm trying to get the CG loading just right. It does still pitch up a little bit on full throttle due to the due to the thing. Well, it's hard for me to actually explain. So when I actually do the video, which is actually going to be tomorrow, it's just way too dark, and this thing flies just a tad bit more faster than I thought. So I really can't just can't sit my set my camera up and just fly it. So I'm going to do a flight video tomorrow of this thing flying and whatnot. But I can already tell that I'm going to be rebuilding this wing. I'm going to make it slightly bigger. I'm probably going to make it maybe like another inch or two bigger. That way so it'll produce even more lift. Of course, I'm not sure if I really need to actually rebuild the wing, but for right now, I think I'm going to. But it does fly. It does fly overall, and it's actually a pretty fun little thing to fly. So tomorrow or a little later today, most likely later today, I'm going to have a video of this thing actually properly flying.